Good morning. My name is Laurie Bishop. I'm the Most Worshipful Grand Master of the Ancient Norman Fraternity of Free and Accepted Masons of Brunswick, May of 2023 to May of 2025. I very much enjoyed my term as the Most Worshipful Grand Master to around 97.7%. I knew that there would be things that aren't enjoyable that come with the office. I am married to Lady Ruth for 35 years on the 26th of April of next year. My father-in-law was a Mason for 60 years and past master of his lodge, and his Lodge St. John number 27 in Bathurst. He would always go to the den, and we were up visiting him on weekends, and Ruth would ask her mother, "What's Dad doing?" And she would say, "He's doing his mumble work." And she said, "What's that?" And her mother would say, "I can't tell you. He won't tell me, so I can't tell you what it is." So when I became a Master Mason, my mother-in-law said, "Now you can tell me everything your father-in-law wouldn't tell you." And I said, "No." In the same breath, I said, "What would you like to know?" Because our ladies are just as much involved in Masonry to a certain extent. But in olden days, it was never talked about. My working career started in 1980 with the provincial government for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, where I remained there for 43 years and just retired September of 2022. I retired early. Luckily, I was able to do that, and was a very easy decision, where I belonged to 15 different Masonic bodies, having a woodworking shop, and my wife never be bored and always has something to do. And I have 150 woodworking projects in my tote that I'll never see the end of, so I don't have to worry too much about being bored or have nothing to do. I began my Masonic career as a member of Alexandria Lodge, number 33, in 1997. I was elected to the office of Worshipful Master in January 2001. I knew as an entered apprentice I wanted to be a lodge officer someday. In January 1998, I was appointed to the office of Senior Steward. I was asked to help the senior deacon with his lecture, and when I was getting it better than he was, I should have seen that first train coming. Because 2 weeks before the fellowcraft degree, the senior deacon took his demit, and I was left in charge to perform that degree. The Worshipful Master and brethren wanted me to go to the west, but I said, let's slow the train down a little bit, having only done one office of Senior Steward. But looking back, I probably could have went to the west, but hindsight being 2020, I didn't have the total confidence in myself for such that I do now. I was then appointed to the office of District Deputy Grand Master for District number 6 by past Grand Master, Most Worshipful Brother Gordon Rattray, for my first year, and another Grand Master for my second year, as half the district was divided back then. I then got elected to the office of Senior Grand Warden, and in time got elected to the office of Most Worshipful Grand Master in May of 2023. One great thing that was done a number of years ago was that the Worshipful Master can open his lodge on any degree to receive the Most Worshipful Grand Master on his official visit. Brethren don't have to wait until they get their Master Mason's degree to be able to be in attendance for this official visit of the Most Worshipful Grand Master. Electronic balloting then came into existence at the start of COVID and is still in place today. The successful candidates for each of the elected offices know shortly in advance of Grand Lodge if they've been elected or not. I've been elected an honorary past Grand Master to the jurisdictions of Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge and jurisdictions of Ontario during my term as Grand Master, which is very humbling, and I never would have seen hadn't I been elected to Grand Master. I also received a Knight Templar sword from the Provincial Grand Prior, Right Eminent Knight Mark Walsh, and the members and affiliated members of St. John de Malay number 3A Preceptory in St. John for exceptional service to the craft as Grand Master and being a member and officer and a past Provincial Grand Prior at our 2025 annual communications. My list of officers, my list of Grand Lodge officers during my term, the Deputy Grand Master was Right Worshipful Brother Ian Culligan of Alexandria Lodge. The Senior Grand Warden was Right Worshipful Brother Tim Yates of Howard Lodge, number 15. The Junior Grand Warden in my first term was Right Worshipful Brother Andrew Libby, and my second term, Right Worshipful Brother William Cavell, as the Senior and Junior Grand Warden's term is 1 year each. The Grand Treasurer was Right Worshipful Brother Harry Follett. The Deputy Grand Secretary was Right Worshipful Brother and Honorary Past Grand Master Chess Piercy. The Grand Secretary was Right Worshipful Brother Graham Fraser. Our Grand Chaplain was Very Worshipful Brother Nathan Davis. The District Deputy Grand Masters for District Number 1 was Right Worshipful Brother Bill Blatchford. District Number 2 was Right Worshipful Brother Russell Strickland. Right Worshipful Brother District Deputy Grand Master for District Number 3 was Right Worshipful Brother Terry Spence, who has since passed a few months ago, unfortunately, to the Celestial Lodge above. For District 4 was Right Worshipful Brother Steve McCaskill. District 5, Right Worshipful Brother James Stewart. And District Number 6, Right Worshipful Brother Alan Gillis. And the Grand Historian presently, and that was appointed then and still very much with us and great asset, is Very Worshipful Brother Bill Cole. Our Senior Grand Deacon was Worshipful Brother Gordon Thompson. Of Granite Lodge, our Junior Grand Deacon was Worshipful Brother Mark Walsh. And Grand Director of Ceremonies, Very Worshipful Brother Kevin Wilson, who is presently the Junior Grand Warden. The Assistant Grand Director of Ceremonies, Very Worshipful Brother Robert Taylor. Of Alexandria Lodge 33, Grand Sword Bearer is Right Worshipful Brother Glenn Garish of Northumberland Lodge number 17. Grand Standard Bearer, my first term was Worshipful Brother Rob McCormick from Woodstock Lodge number 11, and is now, my second term is Worshipful Brother Lou McCarthy of Woodstock Lodge. The Grand Musicians, Worshipful Brother Rodney McGirvin. Our Grand Piper, who I made a Worshipful Brother, is Worshipful Brother Scott Murray, and is still the Grand Piper. Our Grand Pursuivant was Worshipful Brother Steve Bachman, and our Grand Tyler is Brother Frank Christie. During my term, the great memories I do have, or some of them, is I presented 8 Lewis jewels, 8 25-year pins, 11 50-year pins, jewels, and certificates, 11 60-year service pins and certificates, jewels, and 6 70-year jewels and certificates, which is something unheard of for a brother that had to be 91 to be obtain that service award. Brother Derek Walsh, who's our webmaster, and who I appointed, received the Grand Master's Crim Medallion my first year, and Right Worshipful Brother Russell Strickland, District Deputy Grand Master, District Number 2, received my Beardsley Medal in my second year. I also did the rededication service of the 100-year rededication of the Masonic Temple in Moncton, the building, and also the dedication, consecration, and installation of officers for the newest lodge, Cornerstone Lodge number 58 in Moncton. These are just a few of my great memories that I have. We also have a great website and Facebook page, and I tell the story. We have a lady in Newfoundland wrote in to see if she could become a member, and as my Grand Secretary, Right Worshipful Brother Graham Fraser telling me the story, I interrupted and say, "Would that happen to be the lady of the Grand Master of Newfoundland?" He said, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, I get elected, you said the Grand Master knows everything." In the same breath, I said, "My lady talks about that at the ladies program, and when one signs up, they all like to sign up and get some great memories," for I showed those pictures on flash drive at Grand Lodge. I also come up with a challenge coin for the first time, and the net proceeds went to Camp Good Time, and it went over very well. When I first joined Masonry, as a Master Mason, I had aspirations of being Grand Master someday perhaps, and the brothers and sisters of the Order of the Eastern Star looked after my best interests, as I put it, and gave me my 5-page pedigree. So once I become a past master in 2001, I joined Royal Arch Masonry in 1998, and through the chairs, become past first principal, first grand principal, and also I'm president grand representative to Nova Scotia, Maine, Tennessee, and Italy. And with that concordant body, I have an invited body called Order of Anointed High Priesthood, and I become past most excellent president of that shortly after becoming a member. So once you become a past master, and a past thrice illustrious master for Cryptic Rite, and a past first principal, and also a past preceptor for Knights Templar, you are eligible to be invited to 5 concordant bodies. And they usually say it's only 3 meetings a year, And my wife says, yes, that's 3 meetings a year times 5 invited bodies you've been invited to. So I didn't realize I enjoy masonry as much as I did when I first joined. And my mother-in-law wanted me to get the masonry, but not to the point that I joined so many bodies, but she's since passed, as my father-in-law has too. So I'm also a member of Royal Order of Scotland and President Deputy Grand Master. Now in this order, each term is a 5-year term, which is the longest we have in this province. And Cryptic Rite, I'm a member of that, and I'm past Thrice Illustrious Master, which is comparable to a Worshipful Master of a Lodge, past Most Puissant Grand Master of the Supreme Grand Council, Eastern Jurisdiction of Canada Royal and Select Masters in 2013-14. I'm presently the chaplain for the cast for the Order of the Civil Trowel, which Thrice Illustrious Master must take to get his full title and of Thrice Illustrious. I was standing beside a good friend and brother of mine in banquet hall one night, and a 33rd degree Sky's Rite Mason come up, and David was his name, he's since passed, said, you need to join Sky's Rite. He said, I will when Laurie does. And I ended up joining 2 years before I intended, and the rest is history. So now I'm past Most Wise Sovereign and presently the Commander-in-Chief. And of course, Sky's Rite, you have 4th to 14th degree is Lodge of Perfection, and the 15th to 19th is Rose Croix, and the 20th to 32nd is Consistory. And he's very honored and blessed to be elected and anointed a 33rd degree Sky's Rite Mason, which was never on my radar. I also a member of Royal Ark Mariners Lodge, which is tied to Cryptic Rite. A member of the Shrine. Since 1999. I got fizzed in the spring ceremonial that year, and that following January I got installed as second vice president of the Shrine Club. So as the members say, Laurie, when you say yes, it means yes, and when you say no, it means yes, and we don't listen to you anyway. That's why I end up with my 5-page pedigree I never thought I'd ever have. So I'm past president of the Shrine Club and president of the first ceremonial master for the last, I think, 4 potentates. And they said they can't do without me, and I said, well, anybody can do the job I do. And they said, yes, but you have the years and experience in there that some or most don't. I joined the clown unit. My wife found that strange. She said, you're a natural clown, so it took me 2 months to figure that one out. So past boss clown of that body that we're resurrecting. I was also honored and humbled being invited and made member of York Rite Sovereign College in North America called the Order of the Purple Cross, and I had to go to Salt Lake City, Utah to get that degree. And while I was there, the Governor General, who's like the Grand Master of a jurisdiction, said, you need to be in this room with the secretaries and Grand Governors tomorrow. And I said, why? He said, doesn't matter, you need to be there, and you really need to be at the installation. So I said, well, there's something going on. He said, yes, your predecessor, who's had the job of Grand Governor for several years, said he's getting too old to travel and that, and he had a warm, fuzzy, willing body in Salt Lake City. He better appoint him Grand Governor. So that's how I ended up getting my Order of the Purple Cross and Grand Governor's appointment the same day, which is unheard of. I was initiated Order Eastern Star, the Grand Family Exchange, in 1998. Presently past patron 5 times for Devon Chapter 37, and it's just because it's a small chapter, not a lot of brethren, so we usually recycle. I'm also a past Grand Patron and a past General Grand Chapter Committee member. I was appointed to the Service Dog Committee in 2022 to 2024, and presently Grand Representative to Australia in New Brunswick for the next 2 years, 25 to 28. I'm a member of St. Anne Conclave, the Most Puissant Sovereign, a past Grand Intendant General, and I joined, as I mentioned earlier, past Preceptory, so I'm a past Preceptor of Woodstock Preceptory in 1999, that's now in darkness. I am a member of Fredericton Preceptory, which we're trying to resurrect, affiliated member of St. John Preceptory, and a past Provincial Grand Prior in 2009 and 2010. And I'm also a member of the Order of Secret Monitor in Hampton, an MB Conclave number 10, a past Supreme Ruler and past Assistant Grand Registrar, and presently the Grand Guide for 2025 to 2027. And the other 15th body I belong to it's in Nova Scotia, it's Knights York Cross of Honor and it's also an invited body and a past prior and recipient of 4 quadrants. This means once you become a past master, you're entitled to a quadrant. So for myself, I'm a past master, past most puissant Grand Master, and past first Grand Principal, and of course past most worshipful Grand Master. So as you can tell, I got a lengthy 5-page prayer degree, but that's thanks to the sisters and brothers of the province looking after my best interest. I received many invitations to other jurisdictions as the most worshipful Grand Master, and unfortunately I wasn't able to attend them all, but among them I was in New Jersey. I wasn't able to make it to France for the weekend, or New Mexico for the weekend, because most of these Grand Lodges are on the weekend. We had Saskatchewan and Ireland, just name a few, but I have contacts now, and I always can go back and visit and go on a vacation, which I hope to do someday. Just trying to see if there's something. My advice for future most worshipful Grand Masters, I have this to pass on, and I say always, and I stress always, is remain open-minded and don't take sides, hearing all sides of the story, and don't be in a hurry to give advice or comments until you have the whole story. Because as Grand Master, you have to remain impartial. Always stay one step above the brethren, which allows you to not take sides and to investigate to make sure you know the whole story. So that brethren should remain unbiased and not get involved in conflicts which can cause you to take sides. Once you do lose all respect from the majority of the brethren, in my opinion, if you come down, if you do take sides, then you start to lose respect because you are to remain impartial. But more importantly, always be approachable as the most worshipful Grand Master. Don't put on airs or be two-faced, as brethren pick up on that rather quickly. And just be yourself as well, as patient and always kind. Growing up, my parents said not to be put on airs. People would be able to tell, but when you're 12 and 13 years old, you don't realize that. But as you get older, you do. And I had one lady ask me, as far as pictures, because my Grand Secretary said to take pictures. I think it's up to 3,200 when I finish my term as Grand Master. A lady came up and said, "Who is your PR person?" I said, "Me. Why do you ask?" She said, "In my 25 years being around Grand Masters, you're the first one ever to say who is, what is, and where is in your pictures, so we don't have to guess." So I thanked her, and I was very humbled. And it was a little extra work on my part, but the rewards was well worth it. And people have those memories for years, as do I. So once again, brethren, I do thank you for electing me as your Grand Master, and look forward to seeing you on the trail.